Hello, I am the Director of Strategy and Motional, Shin Sanghee. Today, during my presentation, I would like to talk about Robotaxi. There are some hypes about Robotaxi, true, and there are some myths about Robotaxi as well. So I would like to tell you what real Robotaxis would look like in 2025 and what Motional is doing alongside our competitors, that is the businesses in the same market, who are working on Robotaxi. I don't really consider them competitors. I think of them as companions on this market. So I would like to share with you our vision for Robotaxi 2025. When we talk about autonomous driving, there are a lot of mixed reactions toward robotaxis. There are people who say that robotaxi is just a hype, just an exaggeration, and there are those who believe that they will come about soon. Well, this is the fact. 30 trillion won, which is a large budget, has actually been invested in this market. And already over 1,300 companies have jumped into this market. So you may wonder why so much investment. You may think it's a bubble, but actually, these companies are taking real steps toward achieving autonomous driving. And as you know, Waymo, Argo, Cruise, us, and other giants with huge investments are working to realize robo taxis. And we are actually overcoming the challenges that we face. And the giants are part of this journey. And if you look at the past 3 months only, a lot of companies have actually started commercial deployment of robo taxis on real roads. And this is especially notable in the US and China. So that's the landscape of robo taxis. Of course, it's not going to happen right away, and there are some ethical implications as well in robotaxis, and there are those who think it's just a bubble. So, in the face of such skepticism, I would like to tell you why so much money is actually flowing into this sector. As you know, these are the three main values of robotaxi. Number one, we believe that robotaxis are safer. 94% of car accidents are caused by human errors. Therefore, with safer sensors and a better surround perception capability in robotaxis, we believe that the roads will be safer. And according to a study, 1/3 of accidents can actually be avoided with robotaxis. So we actually do have the report published. And not just us, but the many advocates of robotaxis in the industry believe that robotaxis are a more reliable solution. As drivers become more aged, there are resulting consequences, and there are also problems for transportation operation with the aging trend of the drivers. Therefore, robotaxis and autonomous vehicles can resolve this problem of aging trend of drivers. And also, robotaxis can provide better accessibility with better economics. Last but not least, I would like to emphasize the following. When you talk about robotaxi, you usually talk about safety and economics, but we Motional believe in another value of robotaxis. When you think about mobility, you want to provide as much accessibility to as many people as possible with the best convenience possible. We believe that robotaxis can actually provide you with that value. For example, there are certain form factors that would not have been available without the concept of autonomous driving. So with more diverse form factors, we can provide more convenient mobility solutions to more people, which makes this mobility more accessible. That's why so much capital is flowing into this sector. That's why so many companies are endeavoring in this field. But in reality, to realize the vision of robotaxis, we need to solve three main challenges in three main categories. We have challenges in technology, in business, and in regulation. Here's one interesting fact. In the past, people were skeptical about technological aspect of robotaxis. But now, people are talking about technology, business, and regulatory challenges at the same time. This means that technological viability has already been proven in a way. And now it's more about whether this can actually be commercialized as a product. In other words, we have made progress. In the past, we thought of robotaxis as something that you only see in science fiction novels, but now we started to discuss robotaxis in the context of commercialization, in terms of business model, in terms of whether this actually can be deployed in reality. So, yes, we do have challenges in technology, business, and regulation. However, in my presentation, I would like to place more focus on the technology and business factors. So, these are some of the technological challenges. And here I listed four main challenges that I would like to talk about during this presentation. Number one, you need to scale up the software. At the moment, autonomous driving in a particular zone, in a particular region, is no problem. But in order to have wider coverage over more regions, you need to have scalable software. Also, at the moment, autonomous driving system is only focused on the performance and it's not so much focused on the power consumption. So that's an area where we can see improvements. Also, we do have improved sensor capabilities, but of course, it can improve in the future. And that's something that I'm sure everyone is familiar with. And when autonomous driving taxis are deployed, then communications infrastructure will need new standardization in terms of technology and service. You need clear standardization of the communications infrastructure, and that will speed up the era of autonomous driving. But these are challenges that are yet to be addressed. Now, let me talk about the business aspect. We don't have a clear operation model for robotaxis yet. We don't have clear roles of the stakeholders, whether this can actually ensure sustainability. These are all issues that remain to be addressed. Also, in order to make robotaxis more economical and more reliable as solutions, we need engagement of more partners. Also, when you think cars, you always have to think about insurance, which is a really big business cost. Insurance is based on data, but we don't have enough data for robotaxi insurance, so that's another area that we will need to work on. I will elaborate on each of these in the latter part of the presentation. Now, let me first talk about the technological challenges in detail. Number one, about scaling up the software. At the moment, whenever an autonomous vehicle enters a new market, it has to accumulate the data, it has to verify the data. So there are limitations to how fast it can expand in terms of regional coverage. However, we Motional have a direction that we want to move forward. I cannot disclose everything, but to give you a brief view into our strategy, we actually think of this limitation as an inherent attribute of robotaxis. But to improve upon this problem, we think that the software structure and the design structure should take on a more structured architecture to reduce the time, the resources that go into scaling up software. We have what's called rulebook software structure, and it's something that I will be happy to explain about more in the other slide. Also, I said that we have to optimize power consumption. You assume that autonomous vehicles run on electricity. But the battery in today's autonomous vehicles have about 70 to 90 watt or 100 watt battery. And if you think about the AV system, it uses 3 to 5 kilowatts in energy, which means that over 10 hours, it will consume half of the battery capacity simply to run the AV system. A lot of chip companies and electronics develop companies are working on the solutions, but we need to really talk with them and collaborate with them in order to develop customized solutions for the autonomous vehicles. Also, I have to mention about sensor capabilities. As you know, these vehicles will come with cameras, radars, and lidars. We have some redundancies where the camera and radar overlaps and where the radar and lidar overlap. We do that on purpose because each sensor is not perfect. None of the sensors are perfect. In order for autonomous vehicles to be mass deployed, you need to continue improving the capability of sensors, and we're looking for that answer in our machine learning algorithms. And next, we need to work on the communications infrastructure. We need to have standardization that covers all regions so that we can define how much data can be shared across how wide of a region. This has to be clearly specified in order for us to speed up the era of autonomous driving. But these are remaining challenges. Today we talk about 5G, but in order to develop meaningful solutions for our business, we have to work on the LTE base. And once different regions in different countries are equipped with the 5G network, then maybe we can move on to working on 5G. Let me talk about Rulebook Approach. When an autonomous vehicle enters a market, you need to accumulate data about the new drivers, the new roads, the new road regulations, and so on. Today's autonomous driving system does predictions based on data in order to route the automotive in the desirable way. But that means that whenever you enter a new market, you have to accumulate sufficient data. When you don't have enough data, then the autonomous vehicle may be exposed to errors. And this is the software structure that we have. We do have the black box approach for making predictions, but we have what's called a rule book, which shows what a driver should do, what a driver is supposed to do in a given situation. We combine that with recommendations from our prediction so that we have that extra filter of understanding why the car is acting in a certain way. And we can actually filter out some errors, some potential errors that you can make in the initial stage of market entrance. So one end will continue to collect data, and the other end will continue to add rules to the rule book. That's the scalable nature of the software, and that will allow you to enter new markets in a speedy way. If you simply rely on the black box method of accumulating sufficient data, it will really slow you down. You will have to entail a lot of cost and time whenever you enter a new market. So we've found a solution where we combine the two different approaches. And now I would like to talk about the business challenges. Again, this is an area that we are still striving to understand, to resolve. So out of the 100% of the Robotaxi revenue, 20% of the revenue goes into fleet operation, maintaining the vehicles, and so on. So that's really the cost. And 70% goes into new costs that you don't see in regular vehicles. First of all, autonomous vehicle itself is expensive, so there is a lot of depreciation there. And second, autonomous vehicles don't just work automatically. In order to operate robotaxis in particular, you do need support from human resources. Simply put, you can think of it this way. When you have a human driver, this human driver can clean up the taxi when there is a mess. And also, there are situations where the human driver's experience can help, but you don't have that driver in robotaxis. For example, when a passenger makes a mess in the back seat, there's no human driver to clean it up in robotaxis. So you have to think about how you're going to address this problem. So we need to have effective operational support for autonomous vehicles from a business perspective. And we think of robotaxis as safe and reliable solutions, but still there are people who are for the robotaxis and who are against the robotaxis. There are customers who do love robotaxis, but there are people who are extremely worried about robotaxis. So our challenge is to acquire uh, all of these people so that we can educate them on how we've developed the system, how we operate the system. We have to continue educating our potential customers to actually acquire them as our real customers. This is not something that can be done by individual companies. This is really something that has to happen across the society. So that's where we need social collaboration, so to speak. And lastly, we have this cost for insurance. At the moment, we don't have enough accumulated data, which means nobody wants to take the risk. Therefore, we need to find a way, we need to find a position where we can operate robot taxis in a safe social in a social safety net, within the coverage of the social safety net. These issues have to be resolved in order for robot taxis to be as prevalent, as successful as today's regular taxis driven by human beings. Because there are these technological and business challenges, in 2025, we will probably see robot taxis that are not as good as what you may expect. So on the left, you see a region in the States. The purple line shows the boundary within which robotaxis can operate. But actually, because of the business limitations, as well as the time that it takes to develop technology, we see meaningful market area as the small area within the purple boundary that is very small. So you can see that robotaxis would be meaningful only in very limited areas. Also, in terms of consumers using robotaxis, there are still limitations. Today, you can hail a cab anywhere on the road, and you can get off the cab anywhere on the road. However, in 2025, robotaxis will be able to stop only in designated areas. Of course, it could be a little more flexible than the subway or the bus. However, there will be some limitations in customer experience in 2025. Robotaxi can replace the cost of drivers, and a lot of people think that it will generate huge profitability. And in 2025, robotaxis will only generate limited profitability. It will add only about 10% more profitability, which will be shared across platform operators and other stakeholders. So we do have this limited zone, limited profitability, um, and limited flexibility. But robotaxis that will be available in 2025 will actually on public roads, and we will be able to actually get on and get off the robotaxis. It will not be a pilot project. It will actually be a viable business model. This means that it will open up the next chapter in the era of robotaxis. And so that new chapter will open in 2025 or maybe a little earlier if things go well. And although in 2025 the customer experience with robotaxis is only limited, we have a more ambitious vision for 2030. We want to provide better accessibility. We want to provide better customer experience in 2030. And we do think that this will be possible. We do have a technology roadmap to meet this vision. However, to achieve this vision, we need to have better solutions for our technology, business, as well as regulation. To do that, in order to develop robotaxis properly, we need strong partnership. We do have technology and business challenges that cannot be solved by a single company. But through partnership and through social consensus, we can actually address and overcome these challenges. Especially if you think about the 100-year-long history of cars, there is a long heritage of and know-how of car makers that have overcome so many challenges over the past century. And I'm sure that this can be leveraged in the area of robotaxis as well. Despite the many technological barriers and business barriers, um, strong software capacity can help us overcome the challenges, and we need to really have human resources, specialized human resources who can do so. In order to endure this long period of overcoming challenges, we need a huge amount of capital. And again, that's why strong partnership and verified software capacity, as well as robotaxi operators with big investments, are essential for opening up this era of robotaxis. I understand that some people will continue to feel skeptical about robotaxis, but as long as there are operators with this mission and this vision, we believe that we will soon see a day when we see robotaxis on the roads. That's it for the presentation that I prepared, and I will be happy to answer any questions during the panel discussion. Thank you.